What's up, everybody? Welcome to Omnipotent Health and Fitness episode number 3. Our guest today is a bona fide superstar in the health and fitness space. He's known for changing countless lives through his wildly popular fitness sensation P90X. And while he's over 60 years old now, he's still got the physique that makes most fitness buffs envious. That's right. But before you assume he's just a genetic freak of nature that got lucky, think again. He was born as a scrawny kid in Rhode Island with a speech impediment and was bullied constantly. In college, he dropped out and moved to California with the hopes of being a famous actor. Barely scraping by, he took all sorts of jobs, from construction to stand-up comedy to miming to being a go-go dancer. He was in massive debt and living paycheck to paycheck. And yet, when opportunity came knocking, he was ready. By focusing on helping people get massive results, he began to build his clientele from Tom Petty to Bruce Springsteen and even James Bond himself, Sean Connery. From there, he overcame countless failures, including a massive health scare in 2017 with Ramsay-Hunt syndrome. Now, at the young age of 63, he's still just getting started with a brand new program called Power of Four. So please, help me in welcoming the man who got me my first six-pack in college. And I don't mean beer, the one, the only, Tony Horton. What's up, Tony? Welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone. Albert, great to be here, man. Excited to have a little conversation, and we'll discuss life and fitness and all of it.
That's right. Thanks for being here. So every superhero has an origin story, and you grew up, as you heard in the intro, with a speech impediment, and you were bullied. How did you handle all of that?
Not well early on, that's for sure. It was a rough go, because, I didn't really have the skills to be able to deal with it. And I didn't have the teachers and the mentors and the coaches really to sort of help me either. It was the 60s, right? So you just kind of made your way the best that you could. My father had the kind of job where he was on the road Monday through Friday. So it was really my mother and my two sisters. I didn't even have like a brother that I could kind of relate to, but I had a good crew of friends. I had a good batch of pals, later on in junior high school and high school. Excuse me. But when I was a little kid in elementary school, man, it was rough, and we moved 6 times before 5th grade because of the military and the different jobs that my father got. So I was always in a new school system with a new neighborhood and new teachers and new teaching techniques. And it was, and I have a speech impediment too, right? So of course you're the new kid on the block and, wow, this kid talks funny, so let's make fun of him. But, I matured a little bit. It took some time. Through college, and when I moved out to California, I did a lot of personal development work, and most of these books are personal development. I still refer to them all the time. Just stuff about finances and success and relationships and none of the things I ever learned in school. The reading, writing, and arithmetic didn't really help me much. The thing I did have, to answer the short answer, is I had a sense of humor early on, and I knew how to use it. And that always became a way to kind of deflect all the stress and stuff that was going on when I was being made fun of.
How do you think you developed that sense of humor? Was it just a God-given gift?
I don't know. Some people are just, it's funny. I think a lot of it has to do with your inherently kind of custom. I think it could be genetic on some level. There's nothing really in my family that says funny, you know what I mean? Or, my father was a serious guy. My mother, they were both pretty good people. My mother was a rock star, but nobody was kitschy or funny or quick-witted or had a turn of phrase. That was not really. That was just something that was inherently in me. You know what I mean? Maybe it was some sort of genetic survival mechanism to help me deal with all the other things I was dealing with, And then after time, when I came out here, I did stand-up comedy and improv, and I was doing scene study classes, and I knew early on, even as a young kid, that if I made somebody laugh, I had them. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay. I only needed to have that experience 3 or 4 times before I realized, oh, okay, this is maybe how I make my way through life. And, if you own P90X or any of my programs, silly is part of it.
I can attest to that.
I love laughing. I love to laugh. I love when people, my wife is a riot. I did a workout with 5 guys yesterday, all of them hilarious. You know what I mean? So you're in between bicep curls and lat pull downs, laughing your butt off, so that's been always a critical piece to my life. And it still is.
That's right. It's kind of funny. I was letting one of my friends know that I was going to be interviewing you, and I knew that he had done P90X in the past. And we both simultaneously at the same time was like, okra? You like okra? Like, I still remember that line.
Ramen potato soup. That
That's
wasn't
right.
even my line, right? That was somebody else's line. But yeah, you know, don't smash your face and all the silly things that I say, and backing up like a pterodactyl. And you know, people would say, "Wow, how did you come up? Like, when did you write these lines, and when did you know where to put them in?" I go, "I just, you know, they just turn on the mic, man. I do my thing, you know, man." So, not every joke's a, you know, a riot, but you know, I did when I did stand up. One of my writing partners said, "You know, you're not always funny on stage, but you're always very comfortable up there," you know, and so I guess that just came from overcoming the speech impediment, and having, you know, some successes in life, and not being broke anymore, and marrying the woman of my dreams. And you know, with all that, you know, and when I as a young kid, look, you know, if I had the opportunity to look at my life now, I would have never imagined that any of this would have been possible. There's no way, because of all the trials and tribulations and hardships that I was going through as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, resiliency is definitely a trait that you own in spades. Speaking of personal development books, I was reading yours in
Oh,
research for this, right? And something that struck out to me at a young age, you noticed you were trying out all sorts of different sports. And you tried out for football and realized they were using you as a tackling dummy. But you mentioned something in the book that was really interesting, where you said that I didn't know how to practice, that I could practice to actually get better at something. And I know that you're very much into personal development books, and I'm not sure if you've read Carol Dweck's Mindset, but she talks about this fixed and growth mindset is probably there somewhere, I'm sure. But you had a fixed mindset as a child, as many of us do growing up, where you think your talent is defines you, then you can't get any better than what you currently were born with. How did you switch from having that fixed mindset to a growth mindset? Because now, I mean, the sky's the limit for you. I can tell you're going to do amazing things with this power of four that we'll talk about a little bit later. And you're planning to live well over 100 and own a ranch in Montana or Arizona. So,
Wyoming, but close.
Wyoming, that's
Yep,
right.
Wyoming. Yep, yep.
So tell me how you transitioned from that fixed to growth mindset.
Well, I think it was for the very first book I ever read was Looking Out for Number One. And I want to say it's Andrew Weil's book, but I don't remember. It was, well, you know, it was the summer between my senior year and coming out to California. And who knows, it was probably on the floor of my apartment, wherever I was staying with a couple guys. And there was just so much information in there that I had never experienced before. I thought, wow, you know, I used to love reading novels and things like that. And of course, there were textbooks and stuff that I was forced to read. But I had never picked up that kind of a book. And you know, I'm one of these people that I maybe I'm a little bit gullible. I just automatically believe that if you're smart enough to write a book, then what you've got to say in here is pretty important, and then maybe I should try it. You know what I mean? And it was slow going at first. It wasn't like I just like, but I would highlight everything that I thought was really important, and I always go back to it, and then I would go out into the world and sort of play around and see if some of these, you know, a lot of it has to do with just how you communicate with people. And so for me, when I was in college, I was a theater major / communications major. So sort of interesting that I picked two things that forced me to learn how to articulate and enunciate and disseminate. There you go. Without being a malaprop. Yeah, I think a lot of it too was just enhancing my vocabulary over the course of time, and learning how to get up in front of people and just be able to say what I wanted to say without mumbling and stumbling so much. And certainly the improv, you know, classes forced me to entertain people, right? I mean, I loved applause and laughter, so I worked really hard at making sure that I would always do the things that made that happen, as opposed to the ones that just created stares from the audience, like, what the hell is he saying? You know what I mean? And so it was slow going at first, but yeah, I mean, I think a lot of kids have a fixed mindset when they're younger. If they're not really good at something right away, you know, this was my situation. I don't know about everybody else, but if I wasn't good at it right out of the box, that was it. I was done. I would move on to the next thing, and that would happen over and over and over again. And then, you know, I think the personal development and maturing and then moving out to California was huge, because I felt like I could start all over again. College and moving out here were two new starting points for me, because everybody knew who I was in my hometown. And, you know, I moved to Trumbull, Connecticut in 5th grade. and I was there from 5th grade to high school. So there wasn't a whole lot of personal development in there. I was just kind of in survival mode, trying to get through it all. And like I said, I made the football team, but I was a tackling dummy. But I had a core group of friends that liked me and understood me, and we could hang out and, sort of discuss, our lives and whatnot. But when I moved to Rhode Island, which is only one state over from Connecticut, it was a fresh start, all new friends. You know what I mean? I felt like I could reinvent myself here a little bit. And then California was the huge one for me. At that point, I was a bit of a neophyte in the world still, but this place was amazing. I mean, there were gyms on every corner, and you go to the beach 365 days of the year. And then if you wanted to, you could drive an hour to go skiing. And I was just, wide-eyed and bushy-tailed when I first came out here. And then the personal development stuff just blew up. I mean, from Deepak Chopra to Andrew Weil to Tony Robbins, I was into it, man. I had the tapes and the books and just making sure. One of the things too that I learned is surrounding myself with people who were go-getters. No more finger pointers and naysayers and wannabes. It's just I was pretty good at eliminating the kinds of people that just weren't helping me become a better man. And so, yeah, that was basically it. That was sort of the journey for me on the fixed. I say fixed and flexible, but fixed and growth. Yeah, that was and still I'm still growing and learning and
always
going through a metamorphosis of some kind as I move into my mid-60s.
Yeah, honestly, you can't even tell.
Well, I've got good lighting. Don't let me get too close to this TV or this screen.
I'm sure that's what it is. So that's an incredible story. So tell me about, I guess, when you started getting into actually working out. Sounds like sometime around college, but then you moved out to California. And if I was reading correctly, you were spying on, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lou Ferrigno. Tell me about all of that. How did you get into fitness in the first place?
Well, yeah, I took a weightlifting class in college. I was a scrawny kid with a little bit of a belly. And I was under the assumption that if girls were going to like me, I should be more buff. Turns out you needed a personality and a decent income too. But you know what I mean? And you needed to be nice and thoughtful and loving and caring. These are other traits. And I had some of those because I had good parents. But I thought, being buff was the key, right? And I was still a little bit insecure. And I had the speech issue in college to some degree. I had mastered it, just past high school a little bit. But and I took this class, and what was really amazing about it was the teacher. The guy who ran the class was hilarious, and he was his whole thing was, the whole do your best and forget the rest basically came from him, the concept, not the phrase. But hey, man, you're in the room. You're going to be able to track your what you're going to be able to do. Write down your numbers. Here's how you're going to select your weights. Here's how, you got to focus on your form. You know what I mean? You don't want to be, he was just brilliant at it. I mean, he taught me the basics, right? And in the course of a semester, and I was a young, skinny kid, I'm basically an ectomorph. So if anybody doesn't know the difference between ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph, my parents were skinny and I'm skinny. So it was easy to put muscle mass on because I didn't have a whole lot of fat to burn off. And in the course of a semester, people don't notice right away because it takes, it's sort of gradual. They see you all the time. But all of a sudden you'd go to a block party or something on campus and you'd run into a bunch of people you hadn't seen all semester, and they'd go, dude, what in the world? What are your arms? Where'd you get these things? It was just crazy. So it became sort of a conversation every time I went anywhere, where people hadn't seen me in a while. And boy, that was a confidence builder. And oddly enough, my GPA went up that month, that semester. Because there's a lot of science behind, physical activity in the human brain. And, if you know anything about Harvard professor John Rady's book, Spark, norepinephrine and dopamine and serotonin and brain-derived neurotropic factor and all these things. I was experiencing that. I was just all about the pecs and the biceps. You know what I mean? Who knew that all of a sudden I could pay attention better and I could sleep better and all these other little things were happening. So that was the big thing. And then of course the semester ended and I wasn't going to the gym anymore. And I kind of went back to where I was. And then, the following summer I'm off to California. And I was like, when I was at URI, University of Rhode Island, the only gym was on campus, and in high school it was the same thing. Here they're everywhere. They're like on the corner. They're next to the 7-Eleven. There's a bodybuilding gym. There's an aerobics. What is aerobics? You know what I mean? Like live aerobics, the whole thing with the spandex and the silliness and whatever. And I joined at one point, I only had enough money to join one gym, but once I started rolling and making a few bucks with my 18 different jobs, I kept joining different gyms for different experiences and meeting different people and learning different things. And World, you're like you said, World Gym was one of them, because that's where Lou Ferrigno and Arnold Schwarzenegger worked out. And they would come in and I would just sit there with my notebook and go, 40 sets of chest seems like a lot, but okay. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. He's what? Ooh, 2.5 hours of just squatting. Okay. You know what I mean? So I was getting all the extremes, man.
That's
and,
right.
you know, I wasn't a trainer yet. I had gotten an agent at that point. My agent, you know, when I showed up a little bit skinny, he goes, you got to get back in shape, man. So, you know, I would build my back. I was right back. I was doing but I was getting 10 times what I was getting at URI. URI was just weightlifting. You know, this was everything. And then I started working as an actor and, you know, getting little commercials and nothing too dramatic, nothing too intense. And I would do a play here and there, whatever it took, you know, in between my 18 different jobs. And those were the early days. You know, I wasn't training anybody. I wasn't certified to do anything. You know what I mean? And then, you know, the short version of the story is I was finally got a real grown-up job-ish at 20th Century Fox as a PA, as a production assistant, working for Julia Phillips. And Julia and John Phillips produced Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Taxi Driver, and The Sting with Robert Redford and Paul Newman. And so I'm working at this, I'm on the lot, and there's movie stars everywhere and sets. And this is like, boom, this is exactly what I want. And her partner was a guy by the name of Harlan Goodman, who used to be in the music industry. And he thought, I can do music pretty well. You know, I can run these huge tours. I can make movies. The two of them never made a movie the whole time I worked for him. But he was noticing my change, and the job was super stressful, and she was completely out of her mind. She wrote a book, You'll Never Eat Lunch in This Town Again. You know, I would wash bath towels, and I would do light bulbs, and I would make coffee, and I'd hide the pot from wherever because she was smoking too much of it. You know what I mean? It was just Hollywood stuff, right? And he goes, and then she'd fire me every Friday, and then he'd call me up on Sunday night and rehire me. It was just great. You forgot to put a light bulb at the bottom of the driveway. You're fired. Oh, why would you notice? You know, it was just crazy, but the stories are amazing. And then so he said, hey, let's start working out. And we started working out in a buddy's garage, the two of us, before we both went to work. And then I started training other people too. Not certified yet, didn't really know what I was doing, but I look good. I'm cheating off Arnold and Lou. I mean, they must be know what they're doing. So, and then I had 3 or 4 clients, but I was still waiting tables, and I was still doing carpentry, and I was still a go-go dancer at Chippendales, and, you know, whatever I could do. But then he lost, you know, long story short, he lost about 35 pounds, and he went back to doing music. And then I as soon as he left Julia, I left too. And I was trying to do whatever I could do to survive. But I had a couple of clients, and he was walking down the hallway of East End Management one day, where he used to say, you know, he went back with his tail between his legs. Yeah, I tried doing movies, but can I come back and do the music thing? And he said, come on back. We love you, Harlan. And Tom Petty was walking down the hallway, and, you know, at East End, they're both doing this. And Tom sees Harlan and says, Harlan, holy crap, you look fantastic. I'm going on tour and I'm fat. Nobody likes a fat rocker. So how did you do it? He said, call Tony Horton. So Tom Petty calls up my little apartment at 1438 15th Street. My roommate picks up the phone, because we had a couple of guys downstairs that were practical jokers, you know, always trying to pull some stunt. One of them was an actor too. Hey, it's Tom Petty. I'm looking for Tony Horton. Bob goes, yeah, I think it's JP downstairs messing around. I go, hang up, dude. He hangs up on Tom Petty. Phone rings again. Hi, we got disconnected. And Bob goes, my roommate Bob, dude, I think this is actually Tom Petty. Give me the phone. Hello? Hi, I'm Tom Petty. And so it was Tom Petty. So I went to his house, showed up, platinum gold records on the wall. He was smoking a cigarette. Hey, I'm Tom. I suppose I should put the cigarette out. Anyway, so I had him for 4 months. You know, he couldn't do anything. He had never exercised a day in his life, but man, we were bench pressing, and we were getting on the elliptical, and the stationary bike, and I got him a heavy bag, which he loved. And he went off on that tour, man, that summer tour, and he was shredded. I mean, and his stamina really was about his onstage stamina. And he was showing up on stage with like shirts with the sleeves cut off and leather vests with nothing underneath them. And everybody's like, who the hell is this, you know? And I went on tour with part of the tour. He called me up at my parents' house when I was there. Hey, Tony, I'm getting fat again. You got to come and fix me up. And then after that tour, everybody, the whole world was talking. And then Billy Idol called, and then Stephen Stills, and then Annie Lennox, and then Sean Connery. Submarines don't react well to bullets. And then, you know, Allison Janney and Octavia Spencer and Bryce Dallas Howard and and Bruce Springsteen, and it
And
was,
the list goes on and on. It's
this goes on.
incredible. Yeah, it's incredible. So my question, just to go back, one of your first clients is Tom Petty, right? And then you start kind of gaining this clientele. But many people, when they start coaching or training for the first time, they have massive imposter syndrome, as far as, oh, I don't know if I can actually get them the results. So you hadn't had a long track record up to that point. Did you have imposter syndrome, or how did you overcome that if you did?
Oh, well, remember, I'm an actor. So I don't even need the air quotes. I'm an actor. So, what happened was, as soon as I got Tom, I just put my nose to the grindstone on really what to do. But I already kind of did, I had been a member of all these gyms, and I just duplicated what I had been doing and what I had been seeing. And that's why I got him the stationary bike, and I had him doing yoga, and I had, the whole muscle confusion from P90X stemmed from the variety of different things that I was doing to get the physique that I got. And so Tom was also an ectomorph. We had similar builds growing up. And so that was, the whole key is anything that you do 5 to 7 days a week will work if you eat right. You want to break it down into how to get healthy and fit, do whatever you like, as long as there's a certain amount of intensity and you're consistent with it 5 to 7 days a week and you eat right, your body's going to change. It just has to. Some people, are ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph, or some people have a lot of weight to lose beforehand. Some people's journey are I got a buddy of mine who went from kind of pudgy to shredded in 45 days because he didn't have all that much to lose. Some people, it's going to take 9 months. Like I got a friend of mine that I met along the way, is Jeremy Yost. He had to lose 180 pounds before he looked like me, but he did it because he did P90X 7 times in a row. You know what I mean? So, it's being healthy and fit is pretty basic. I didn't have to be an imposter. I already kind of knew what it was going to take. You know what I mean? Then, I think somewhere in there, I went and got certified finally. And I didn't really need to. A lot of what I learned, I thought was bunk. And I kept doing what I thought was working. That's the reason why we sold 11 million copies of P90X, because I reinvented fitness. Well, let me pat myself on the back while I tell you how awesome I am. But you know what I mean? Like, people, they suffer from boredom, injuries, and plateaus. That's the reason why most people stop. They have all these intentions. January 1, here I go. Oh, I'm bored. Oh, I'm injured because I can't. CrossFit. You know what I mean? Whatever it happens to be. Bad trainers, bad mentors, bad whatever. You also have to have a purpose that is substantial. You have to be consistent, and you have to be accountable, right? So those are little groups of 3. And once you get that stuff figured out, if your reason is I got these young kids that come to me, I want to be bigger. Why? Are you playing hockey? Are you a linebacker? You're a kid in college who's got why? First of all, you got to figure out your reason why. And at 63, my reason why is just to feel good in my own flesh, to be able to ski like a maniac, to fly through my ninja course, and to be camera ready when I have to be. You know what I mean? I have a job that makes it easy for me to be fit. Most people don't. They've got, families and work and everything else. But the main purpose anybody should is just because, exercise gives you the ability to be able to do things you can't do without it. All right. Healthy food that's your medicine. That's going to stave off the cancer and the Parkinson's and the Alzheimer's and the type 2 diabetes and the hypertension. That's what the food's for. Right. And supplementation as well. But, it's just all that stuff. I didn't know a lot of it then, but I was a really curious guy who enjoyed training celebrities as opposed to doing mime on the pier. You know what I mean? So I was going to do whatever I needed to do. And I was acting, and I was in the business sort of, and I had a sense of humor, which they liked. You know what I mean? I wasn't some kind of a maniac drill sergeant. You know what I mean? And that's what really makes people like me successful. It's your persona as much as your knowledge, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's incredible. So we sort of know the punchline. P90X becomes this ultra success. P90, or you started out with Power 90, P90X, P90X2 and X3 and all of that. And I know I've heard you say in many interviews that when you were trying to go the acting route, that you wanted to be a cross between Brad Pitt and Jim Carrey. Now,
well, John, you've done your research.
I did. I always do. So Jim Carrey has famously said that I wish everybody could get rich and famous so that everybody could know that it's not the answer. So after you got rich and famous, how did you handle that? Did anything change for you, or did you learn anything from that?
I'm a C- celebrity. Let's face facts. You know what
Depends,
I mean?
depends on the crowd that you're in.
I'm quasi known. You know what I mean? Depending on whether you've done my thing or not. Otherwise, it's just like, who the hell are you, buddy? My level of celebrity is kind of perfect. I think if I had Ewan McGregor, who I've trained several times for, Ewan McGregor or Billy Idol, they just can't go anywhere or do anything. You know what I mean? They just get mobbed. I get mobbed at events that I'm invited to go to. You know what I mean? So I can kind of, like, I've been at 63 military bases around the world. And, it's weird, from Kosovo to South Korea, it's wild to go to these places and know that maybe 50 to 80% of the people at one of these bases is on one of your programs. And maybe I was a politician in a past life. I love pressing the flesh. I love meeting people. I love exchanging ideas. If somebody's struggling with something and I know I have the answers, for me, it's always exciting and challenging to come up with a succinct, specific answer that they'll go, oh my, like I had a Zoom call like this, and the guy's like, I tried vegan for a month, I couldn't do it. Well, tell me what you're doing. And then he explained what a mess it was. And I gave him four things. And he's like, oh, I never thought of that. I never thought of any of those things. I go, guess what? You can go be vegan again now if you like, because you have the answers you didn't have before you asked me that question 18 seconds ago. You know what I mean? And that is the best part. People looking to me for advice to be able to get into the place that I'm in right now, which is being pretty fit and pretty healthy in my 60s. The older I get, the better it is for me. It's like, holy crap. That's right.
Man, just like
when I'm 70, I'm going to rock. You know what I mean? And a lot of it has to do with, the quality of how you look at the world. You know what I mean? I've always been, even when I was struggling as a young kid, I was always a glass half full guy. I mean, I just was. And not to say that I haven't had these moments of depression and even suicidal when I was really struggling a few times early on in my life. But I always thought, hey man, there's got to be, what's the action I need to take? That I picked up really soon. If I'm depressed, it's probably because I'm sitting on my ass, and maybe I just need to get up and move, and that usually works some of the time. And meditation, after I got sick in 2017, meditation and mindfulness has been a huge for me since. I mean, it's part of the power of four. Mindfulness is it's one of the four categories. And these are just things that you pick up along the way because, I like, it's in the Constitution, the pursuit of happiness. I like being happy. I like smiling. I like feeling good. I don't like being tired. I don't like being in pain. You know what I mean? So I have, I have an infrared sauna, and I have Theragun, and I have foam rollers, and I take naps, and I meditate, and I get my, I get in my bathtub with Epsom salts and just lie there. I mean, these are just, right? The pendulum swings in both directions, but if you think it's going to live over here the whole time and you can't figure out why you're in pain and you're fatigued and you're depressed and you're sad and ornery, it's because you know what I mean? You're living over here. You've got to find that downtime. You've got to get the decent sleep. You've got to eat the right kind of foods that aren't creating all kinds of problems. So, it's been a long journey, but Absolutely. I feel like I'm in the groove, man.
Yeah.
So, and I love, to answer your question, it was gradual. I remember the first time at Power 90 had come out, nobody knew me from Adam, right? And I had a really horrible cold, and I was in some pharmacy trying to get some meds or something. And this girl walks in and she sees me, she starts sobbing. And I went, oh my God, is this a girlfriend or something? I did something bad. You know what I mean? And then she starts twirling in the pharmacy part of this, right? Look what you did for me. Look what you did for me. I've never looked like this in my entire life. And I'm like, holy crap, what are you talking about? I did Power 90, you know what I mean? Oh my God. And then, it would trickle in. So it was a trickle thing, right? You know what I mean? And then Power P90X kicked in, and that happened more often. But, I think I've had 2 stalkers that came and went. But for the most part, it's just been a blast, and I love it.
Yeah, that's incredible. Shifting gears a tiny bit, Power 90 first was sort of a failure and then became a success. P90X was first sort of a failure, then became a success. And so resiliency is really core to who you are. And then in 2017, you mentioned Ramsey Hunt a little bit ago. I was wondering if you could talk more about that experience and how you overcame that debilitating illness.
Well, it was stress related, right? So I had chickenpox as a kid, like most of us have. And the shingles virus is just in there, man, waiting for you to be all kinds of stressed out. I can't imagine how many people in Ukraine are getting shingles right now, along with everything else they're dealing with. You know what I mean? The level of stress. For me, my stress levels were coming from 3 different things that all happened pretty much at the same time. I had a 20-year run with Beachbody, and kind of like Tom Brady. Well, I've won all these Super Bowls. What are we going to do next? Oh, oh, really? After all that, I'm going to leave and go to Tampa Bay and win one. Okay. Cause you know, you guys suck. I was shocked and appalled by the deal that Beachbody was offering when my contract was up. 20 years of service. I thought I'd be doing that. I would assume that I'd still be there and still, making these great programs and not having to worry about distribution and media and all these things. Just, develop it, show up, hit my mark and go home. That was a great ride for 20 years. And all of a sudden I was just, to be frank, I was getting jerked around by this. And so it's back and forth, attorneys and my stress levels were just like up here because I thought, what am I going to do now? It wasn't like there were a bunch of people rushing to, I was in my 50s. I wasn't a kid. At the same time, Tom Petty passed away the day after the Vegas shooting. And I had friends that were at the Vegas shooting. And I just thought the world was caving in. I trained Tom for 32 years and I was just, and then I found out how he died and I got him ready for that tour beforehand. I had him for a little bit. And I just wish that, not that I could have saved his life, but if I had all the intel, I would have taken him and said, hey, man, I've known you 32 years. You got to cut this shit out. Let's, but I didn't get that opportunity because no one told me what was going on. And then these folks in Vegas, just, bullets flying. And it was nuts. And then Beachbody was like, I remember going to the meeting at Beachbody and looking at my wife who showed up with me. And I looked, and we got in the car. I went, I don't work here anymore. You know what I mean? And about a week later, during a dinner party, I had a crazy headache, burning in my ear. And I thought I was having a stroke. I wasn't really sure. So the one thing about Ramsay Hunt syndrome or shingles, which is shingles in your ear, which affects all these nerves that affect your sight and your smell and your taste and your balance. Right. And then, with that comes Bell's palsy, which is a hot look for a guy who's trying to, make a living, partly with his face. So it was hellish, and I lost 25 pounds. I couldn't get out of bed because if I got out of bed, I'd fall over. And, it wasn't one of these things where anybody had an answer, like it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks or this will be gone. I mean, a lot of people who get Ramsay Hunt syndrome have Bell's palsy the rest of their life. They have balance issues, which I still have on some days. The rest of their lives, their lives are diminished greatly, because one thing about nerve damage is, unlike a bone or skin, it's a predictable healing time frame. Nerves, we'll take our time or we won't. You know what I mean? It's just how it goes. So for the first 3 months, it was just living hell. All I did was sleep and throw up, and I was drinking through a straw, trying to get some nutrition and stuff. But the abject pain, the pain of it, and the depression from it, and I wept. I mean, I would just put my head in my wife's lap and weep because everything had come to a crash, crashing halt. So, but being the optimist that I am, I mean, I try to go down and walk on the treadmill for 3 minutes, and I'd wipe me out for 3 hours. I mean, I gotta drive. I gotta do a push-up. I can't do anything. I couldn't drive. It was just horrible, man, like a recluse. But over time, going to the rehab, I started going to rehab, and I went to the otorhinolaryngologist, AKA the ear, nose, and throat folks. And I did all these balance tests. And, all the king's horses and all the king's men could only do so much to put me back together again. The person that needed to do it was me. And I already had the foundation, the lifestyle. And I read John Kabat-Zinn's book, Full Catastrophic Living, which, where's that thing? Is that laying around? It's always, because I'm always reading it. Here it is. You guys are dealing with a lot of stress, man, get into that thick daddy there.
Yeah.
Right there, man. Super helpful, just super helpful. There's so much gold in here. I mean, look at me. You can see how.
That's right.
This area, this is a good section.
All of this.
I like that.
Review all of this.
Yeah, do those things.
Yeah.
Again, if you're going to write a book that big and you're that well known, and using the wisdom of your body and mind to face stress, pain, and illness. I mean, I had all three of those things, so that was gold. And slowly but surely, but don't call me Shirley. Boom, I'm here all week. I remember I was just able to kind of get outside and go for a walk. I mean, it was slow going that first year was really brutal. And for the first 2.5 years, I would get these bouts of bilateral, something called bilateral, it's sort of an after effect of Ramsay Hunt, bilateral vestibular hypofunction, where, the nerves would just go, you're overwhelming me right now. You're trying too much. And so try to go walk in a straight line. I remember when I did my first gig, I would say maybe 9 months into it, the Bell's palsy had come and gone finally at that point. Thank God. And whenever I went anywhere, I would have a carry-on with wheels, and that would be my kind of my walker. I remember the first time, the first gig I had was in Vegas, and I walk into one of the casinos. And the one thing about Ramsay Hunt and bilateral vestibular hypofunction is the visual stuff. Like if you're overly stimulated, too bright, too dark. I still can't walk in a dark room and not, have issues. And I'm using that carry-on to be able to just get through the thing in the event. But in the end, it saved my life. It showed me how to slow down. It showed me how to, take stock and be thankful and be present and be, take deeper breaths, man. And I meditate all the time, in the car, anywhere and everywhere, always before I go to bed, usually when I get up in the morning.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like it would do much, but boy, it changes everything. And I've learned about different kinds of meditation, breath holds and 4x4 and 5.5 breathing. Learned that from I think is it David Nestor's book, Breath. Yeah.
Right,
so
right.
It's been powerful. It was important. It's sometimes important for you to hit the bottom so that you can really realize what you have. I'm so much more appreciative of what I have. I mean, I have a home in Jackson Hole where I skied for a month, and like, I just really take it in now, where before it was just kind of passing me by and I wasn't appreciating as much as I do now. So,
yeah. That's a beautiful sentiment and a beautiful lesson from something that could have been potentially very tragic. From researching you again and listening to some of your other interviews, I know that your wife, Shawna, plays a very integral role. You guys have this beautiful relationship. Seeing you guys have these Q&As on YouTube was really, really cool to see. So, a couple questions are, how did you go about cultivating this relationship? And if you feel like talking about it, how did you guys meet? And, how did you guys develop this, awesome relationship that you guys have?
Oh, wow. We're going that way, are we? That's interesting. I don't usually answer. I love that you've asked that, because I don't usually get questions like that. It's like, how much broccoli do I need to eat to lose 5 pounds before?
We'll get there. We'll get there in a little bit, but I feel like
no, I appreciate that.
Connection is just so vitally important. And I feel like, especially after the Ramsay Hunt and how she was such a huge support system for you, that it's a great natural progression in the conversation.
Well, I met Sean on a blind date, basically. I was chasing her best friend, who wanted nothing to do with me. Her friend Tamara. Tamara was funny and beautiful, and we got along great. We made each other laugh, and we went on like 3 dates, and we weren't really dates. She was just looking for free meals, I think is kind of what it was. And after, like, I go, how come you and I aren't? This is before I even knew about Shawna, but thank God, because she introduced me to Shawna. How come we aren't? Look how much fun we're having. She goes, you don't want to date me. I'm bipolar. I chain smoke when you're not around. I'm high half the time. I'm a freaking slob. My pug sleeps on my pillow. I would drive you crazy. And I looked at her and I went, that's all I needed to hear. Okay, great. So I was like, don't care anymore. I was like, what I mean? I'm a big fan of information. You give me information, and it's not like I'm a big fan of reality. You know what I mean? I don't need to try to pretend I don't need to live in a pretend world. And so she goes, but I got this friend of mine, this girl, Shawna. She lived in Arizona, and Tamara was from Arizona, and she was living here in LA. And I kept hearing about her. And then she kept telling Shawna about me. And then so finally that day came where they knocked on the front door. And Shawna's a beautiful gal. She was a model. She was in Japan a bunch of years modeling and stuff. But, I had gone out with pretty girls before. I mean, the one thing about a certain amount of fame and a certain, and having decent income is that you get to meet, sort of people who are supposed to be all groovy and such, but you get to know them and you go, you're not down to earth. You're not, you're just looking to whatever, you're looking for the Hollywood thing. And I wasn't into that at all. And we had this blind date, and she was a riot, and she laughed at all my jokes. And we kind of just hung around for the weekend. There was 4 of us. It was my buddy Brian and Tamara and Sean and I. Let's do this tomorrow. Let's go there. Let's go to the beach and work out. Whatever it was. And then she went off to Arizona. But before she left, of course, I got her number and everything, and we kind of had this 1 year back and forth relationship. And at some point, we were really digging each other. And she said, look, I'm going to either buy another house and stay here in Arizona, or I'm going to, what is this thing? We've been doing this for a year. And we were saying, I love you already. And I go, if you love me and I love you, then why am I in Arizona and why are you there? And I said, you're right. And then she was going to stay with a friend in LA, and that fell through. And she sold her house in Arizona. And she said, well, what do I do? Because I don't have this thing in LA. Do I come live with you? Oh my, I love you, but whoa, that's scary. And so I made this much room in my closet for her stuff, which was not enough apparently. And then she moved in, and it continued to rock. You know what I mean? It just continued to be great. I just loved being around her and being with her. And it felt like family almost immediately. You know, it just did. Now I've been single forever. I mean, I had long-term relationships and whatnot, but I was in my 50s, and, you know, marriage, I mean, this is great. We're living together, but marriage. And so, you know, whatever, 5.5 years into the living together thing, she said, you know, I'm kind of into the marriage thing. We've been doing this for a long time, and you're old as snot. I mean, who else are you going to, you know, hang with that's as cool as me? And I said, you're right. And so we blew it up, man. I invited like 600 people. Everybody I knew. She goes, you're inviting who from junior high school? When's the last time you talked to him? I don't know, like 25 years ago, but whatever. So I just invited all the family. I mean, my side was like, I think about 325 came in the end. I had like 300 and she had 25, you know, but we had a big 3-day shindig. It was awesome. You know what I mean? And here it is 6 years into the relationship. And, you know, early on I was doing my thing, and she was studying to be in real estate and kind of she had some cool projects that she was involved in. But every time I asked her opinion on something in my life, she was like, wow, that's genius. You know what I mean? She just was smart. She was one of these girls that would smoke cigarettes in the bathroom, then go take the test and get an A+. You know what I mean? One of these, you know, those girls from school, like, she just, you know, she just picks things up really, really quickly. And so now she runs the whole shebang, man. I mean, I work for Tonal, and I work for Golden Hippo, who make my supplement line, but our whole Power of 4 Power Nation adventure is really, she runs the show. I hit the mark, and she runs the whole thing, and she's the brains behind the operation. And it's amazing that we get along that well. We're in business together, and we still get along really well. I mean, I am blessed to be in a relationship, and it was worth the wait. You know, she's 17 years younger than me. I couldn't have dated her in high school. That would have been weird, you know, because she was 1 at that time.
Jeez. We went there.
I did. Hey, the humor's got to.
It's got to come out.
People are dropping out of the call here. Come back.
No,
but yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate, man. And thanks for asking that question. She's just, here's how I know how much I love her. Like when I pull in the driveway and her car's there, it's like, yay! Still, 14 years in, that's still how I feel.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I just, wanted to get the heartfelt out there.
There you go,
so,
man. A little piece of my heart.
That's right. That's right. Shifting gears a little bit down to the meat of probably what everybody else wants to hear, talking about health and fitness. And let's just say somebody is extremely overweight. Let's say that they're 300 pounds and they're going to want to try to get in shape, but they don't know where to start. What's the step 1 through 5? What should they be doing first?
Well, finding a method, a technique, a trainer, a mentor, a coach, a program that they're excited about, right? There's a lot of fads and trends and different gimmicks and things, like Peloton's popular and CrossFit's popular, but finding the right thing for you at that weight, you know what I mean? Being realistic with it and make, and you need a reason why, which is more than I want to lose 75 pounds so I can look good in front of my friends, right? I mean, that's too much about your ego. If it's ego-based, you're probably not going to succeed, especially if you don't have an athletic background, right? So if you're somebody who's just sort of a bit of a neophyte in this world and finally realized based on what you have learned about yourself and what your doctor's telling you, and it's time to make those changes, then your purpose just has to be, I want to feel better today. I want to feel better today. That has to be right there. And you need to write some affirmations down where you can see them. This is what I tell folks, you know what I mean? Put them on the fridge, put them on your bathroom mirror, put them on the back of your front door where you're going to see them. You know what I mean? I know it sounds all gimmicky and everything else, but in your handwriting on a piece of paper and a pen, you know what I mean? Put down whatever sort of, do your best to forget the rest, put that sucker up there, right? And not, the thing is, show up, and on certain days you're going to be 100%, other days you're not, you're going to be 20. So what, I mean, being there is the most important thing. That's some of it. And then finding some kind of a food philosophy, or, you know, I mean, if you have the income or whatever, having a nutritionist or some kind of a guide or somebody. Don't jump into the whole, you know, the whole weight loss fad craze. There's just, everything is out there. And a lot of them do work if you stick with them. But, you know, my whole thing is whole foods. I've been vegan for about a year now. And I've tried it twice before. It didn't work because I was eating too many vegan crackers and chips and stuff. Now I eat real food, which really helps. And then some kind of supplementation that will kind of give you that extra edge. You know, there's no, anybody who's successful in the health and I'm just sort of throwing everything against the wall here. So
sure. Yeah.
But some kind of supplement that's going to help accelerate the healing and the recovery process, and maybe helping you just have just enough energy so that you can have the enthusiasm to be able to get up and go do what you need to do. I mean, it's purpose, plan, accountability again. It really is. Like, what is the reason why? What is your plan? Your plan should be written on a calendar somewhere where you can see it. I mean, if your phone and your desktop or iPad work as a means in which to keep you motivated, I like it up on a wall, like a calendar with what time you're going to work out, what you're going to do, and make an appointment, because the goal, success comes when you accept exercise and health as your second job. For me, it's my first job, but for everybody else, it's their second job, because it has to be prioritized like that, right? Because success comes from when you show up, right? You always pay your bills. You always go to sleep at night. You always eat your meals, right? These are things that everybody always does to survive, and surviving is cute, right? But we're not here to survive. I mean, you know what I mean? Tick tock, it's over, right? Birth, school, work, death. I mean, what are you doing in between? You know what I mean? It better be taking care of yourself. It's that second job. And it shouldn't feel like a job. It should feel like a career or a really cool hobby. You know what I mean? And if you have the right coach, the right program, the right strategy, you've got a plan, you know what you're going to do, what time you're going to do it. And it's got to be 5 to 7 days a week. And 7 days a week doesn't mean you're doing plyometrics and pull-ups every day. A couple of those days are just meditation, just a planned meditation at 3 p.m., at 5 a.m., at 9 p.m., whatever it is. You're just going to sit there quietly, and you're going to shut up, and you're going to turn down the lights, and you're going to take deep breaths, any variation you want. There's about 50 variations inside that book. All right. And that's part of your process, part of your purpose, right? And then, but 5 days a week, there better be some physical movement. And initially, if you got a bunch of weight, don't lift it, don't lift. You don't have to lift things. Just get outside, man. Put on the sneakers and hump. You know what I mean? Just find some hills. Hills are important, like little hills. You don't have to go up a big, sharp thing. Just get that heart rate up, burn some calories, because that's when the norepinephrine and the dopamine, the serotonin, and the brain-derived neurotropic factor is going to go into that temporal lobe inside your hippocampus, right? And it's going to get inside that dentate gyrus, which is inside the hippocampus. And that thing is going to light up. And when that lights up, it's like miracle grow for your brain. And when you do that just walking up some hills, then you're going to build momentum. And then the next day, it's like, you know what? I like the way I felt after that. I feel like, you know what, I didn't lose all the weight in the course of a 20-minute walk, but I showed up. And so you do that because it's your job, right? It's your purpose. You've got your plan. What time are you doing the next thing? Mondays for me, Mondays are 5:30 cardio. Tuesdays are 8 o'clock shoulders and arms. Wednesdays, tonight, I got 8 people showing up in the backyard. I'm doing plyo. You know why I invite 30 people? Why? Because if nobody shows up, I will not do plyo. It's my day off. So I don't have people. That's my accountability. This is how I stay accountable. I have my tribe. I've got my go-getters, right? I mean, I'm always emailing. Everybody knows, right? Thursdays is chest and back 8 o'clock, same crew. Fridays is balls and boxes, which is all core and plyo boxes and parallel bars, walking and doing all kinds of crazy things. Saturday is yoga or a day off, depending. And Sunday is my 4-hour ninja extravaganza. And every single time there's people here. And every time, if any of them, if they all cancel, how often do I go down there by myself and do something? Never. I just can't. You know what I mean? So you got to find your reason why. You got to have your plan, and you got to find your tribe to be accountable. And if you notice that you're getting bored, injured, or plateau, that it's time to change something up, slow down, modify, stop halfway through, take 3 or 4 days off. You know, these are that, and that's why, you know, the power of 4. I'm not telling everybody here who's maybe struggling or doing whatever. The power of 4 is it's exercise, obviously, it's nutrition, it's supplement, and it's mindfulness. It's those 4 things. And there's 25 different routines. I created this thing during the pandemic because, you know, I mean, everybody was sitting around like, what the heck are we going to do? So the fans are like, why don't you just do something online? So, okay. So I made like 8, and then I made more. And then we ended up making like 47 routines and shooting them in my gym with masks on. You can't even hear us. You know what I mean? The sound is terrible. The lighting is crap. But thank God it's something new, because how many times can you do P90X? You can't do P90X. I've done it 30 times. Stop. I'll give you something new. So, you know, here we are, and that's it. You know what I mean? It has to be, it has to be something that you look forward to. You don't have to love it. You have to love what it's going to give you. And what it's going to give you is a new frame of reference about 15 minutes into it, and especially after it's over. You know, I don't know a whole lot of people that have exercised and go, well, that was a horrible idea, and I feel like crap. You might be a little bit tired. Everybody's calling me. It's okay. And that's it. That's kind of a hodgepodge thing. But ultimately, you really do. You need, if you got the right people, if your 5 best friends were ice climbers, you might be interested in that and maybe get good at ice climbing. You really are. You are the people that you surround yourself with. And if you're surrounding yourself around with people who want to do what you want to do and go on that journey with you, then the odds just go way, way, way up. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. That was beautiful. I mean, once this is on YouTube, everybody just needs to listen to that 10-minute segment and go hit it hard at the gym. That's right.
Because you want to feel good, and you want to be happy, and you want to be out of pain, and you want to be you don't want to be exhausted all the time. You know what I mean? And it's possible. You just have to, you know, make a little shift.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be dramatic. You know, it just has to be something that you're kind of enthusiastic about, where you don't feel like you're crushed afterward. And then you get to the point where, like with me, you know, I'm a 2 left feet, speech impediment, had the pain threshold of a butterfly, you know what I mean? And now I'm in my backyard for 4 hours doing ninja stuff. It just, I mean, it's taken decades to get there, but the entire time I've gotten older, and I can physically do things now that I couldn't do in my teens or 20s or 30s or 40s or even in my 50s. I mean, when I'm 90,
that's right. That's right.
I don't know. Who knows? More yoga, I think, as I get older.
So last 2 questions here. You mentioned purpose, consistency, and accountability. Now, we talked about consistency, where you schedule out your workouts. You talked about accountability, and that you invite 30 people to do plyometrics, because that was by far the worst part of P90X when I was doing it. Now, purpose, what is your purpose now? Why are you still working out, doing ninja courses outside at age of 63 and still pushing your limits? What's your purpose?
Well, it's part of my DNA now. It's automatic. I can't imagine taking 3 days off unless I'm ill or close to death. You know what I mean? My purpose now is just because I love the way it makes me feel. I love the camaraderie with I mean, everybody that works out here now with me is fitter and stronger than I am. I mean, they weren't when they started, a year or 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. It's just fun to watch their transitions and see how strong they get. And now I compete with them because I'm always the oldest guy in the room. You know what I mean? The guy closest to me is 58. This guy, Scott, who's gotten really strong. And it's just it's a great club. We're part of a club or a team of aging athletes. Some of us, some of the guys and gals here are in their 20s, but that's it. I just enjoy it now. I enjoy, and if I'm doing a routine that I don't enjoy, like cardio or balls and boxes, which is a nightmare. But what I love is how I feel afterward and what it allows my aging body to do. Because in your 60s, your body just wants to age so fast. Like I took 3 days off, or I went skiing for a month, and I came back like, I can't do push-ups. My numbers just disintegrated. And so, all right, well, I have enough knowledge and background that I know how to get back into it again. I don't freak out if I start feeling weak again, based on illness or travel or something. I just get right back in. And the weird thing is I like being a little on the weak side because of those kinds of things, because I get to work at getting strong again. You know what I mean? But I have to foam roll, and I have to get in the jacuzzi, and I have to get in the do all those other rehab things. And I have to sleep a little bit longer some nights because I've taken some time off and I'm hammering my body again. And my second purpose is I love sharing it with other people. I love conversations like this. I hope a couple light bulbs go off a few people's heads here today based on what I'm saying, that, and I like being a bit of an anomaly at my age to be, cranking out 30 pull-ups at 63, going on 64. You know what I mean? It's just fun. It's just fun. And And there's a lot of people in my industry that are a bit myopic on their technique and methods, right? Pilates only, or biking only, or yoga only, or bodybuilding only, right? And so that kind of mentality, like, I'm committed, I'm doing it, and I'm doing this thing 5 days a week, but the boredom, injuries, and plateaus, they're coming because you're trying to do the same thing over and over again and expecting some kind of change. Thank you, Albert Einstein, right? So, I mean, variety is the spice of life. It's the spice of food. It's the spice of fitness. It's just, I'm always plunging into things where I'm terrible. Like, oh, let me go to this person's class. That was hard. Good, because that was introducing all these muscles and tendons and ligaments and everything into something new movements, right? Which is going to, prevent the injuries from just doing the same stuff over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I got two purposes. One for myself, just because I dig it and I love it. And the other one is to help other people get there too.
That's amazing.
I could have just said that, I guess.
No, I love this. I love everything about that. So before I ask my final question, where can everybody find you and follow you and get your content or Power of Four and all of this?
Well, if you're, I think I'm on Twitter. I mean, I say stuff and somebody puts it up for me. If you're a Twitter person, at Tony_Horton. I have to look at my cheat sheet. Instagram is at Tony S. Horton. On YouTube, because I got a lot of stuff on YouTube, just Tony Horton. And then if you're looking, no one's going to write this stuff down.
We'll put it all in the show notes.
Good. My supplement line, which I had made for myself after I got sick, because I wasn't getting the nutrients that because I lost the 25 pounds. I had sort of an accelerated version of something called sarcopenia, which is sort of age-related muscle loss. People in their 60s and 70s and 80s just aren't buff, you know what I mean? Because they're not getting the right nutrients. So I had this stuff made, and I had leaky gut and I didn't know it. So I had something called Foundation 4. mypowerlife.com. This supplement line has been huge. It's been really a blast. And like, unlike with Beachbody, I didn't have any say in anything practically, you know what I mean? Especially toward the end. Here, I just, what color can I make the top? What can I named it Power Life. They were going to call it Beyond You. So where you are sucks. We're going to get beyond that. You know what I mean? So it's been a really amazing experience with them. And the ingredients are top shelf, man, all the way. I went to the factory in Texas, which is cool. It's a USA product, right? So, and then of course, if you want to come to one of my live events, if you want to come to one of my ski, yoga, snowboarding retreats in Jackson Hole or Mammoth or whatever, it's TonyHortonLife.com. That's TonyHortonLife.com. And of course, if you want to be part of the Power of Four in that community, which has just been a blast, you can go right to this page I'm about to tell you, and you can look at the testimonial. I look at the testimonials, man, and they just blow my mind, because I've learned a lot since P90, XX2, and X3. There's been a lot of change, and I like new things, and so that's all in the Power of Four. It's PowerNationFitness.org, PowerNationFitness.org. So there you go.
That's incredible. So for my final question, if you could have the entire world adopt one lifestyle modification to most greatly impact their health in a healthy way, what would that be?
Yoga.
Amazing.
Yoga. Yeah.
Amazing.
Because yoga is four things at once, right? It's strength, it's balance, it's flexibility, and it's mindfulness. It's all. And then, yoga, there's just hundreds of types from Ashtanga to power to Hatha to, it's just endless. And it turns into gymnastics after a while. And it's all body weight. And you could do it in your skivvies and a mat and no shoes. I mean, it's anywhere, anytime. I mean, it's, it's a no excuse practice. And it's very hard at first for people who are inflexible, but it's life altering. It truly is. It is. And the mindfulness part of it is if you understand about Ujjayi breath and all these different things, there's so much to learn about yoga. You know what I mean? It's incredible.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. All right, everybody, if you haven't dove into his world or haven't seen all the people that he's helped throughout the years, you're going to want to dive into his material. So that's about it. Until next time. Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much, Tony. This was amazing.
My pleasure, everybody. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. Appreciate you, Albert, very much, man.
Yeah, thank you.